Welcome to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And thank you for staying tuned. I am Tamara Scott, bringing you Truth for Our Time. As you know, we help you live God's Word in today's world, because if He expects you to live through it, He's directed you how to do it. Somewhere in His Word, a parable, a story, an instruction. And those instructions are not to give us oppressive parameters, but to give us safeguards so we don't go off the highway, off the cliff as we're traveling the highway of life. And so as you're traveling along today, maybe as we've said, you might be hearing us on 99.3 FM, noon on Sundays. We thank 99.3 FM for coming alongside of this show and bringing truth to you, the voice of truth in Central Iowa. And so if you're traveling along on the highway, we're trying to help you do that well when the headlines hit home, trying to help you with your family, trying to help you with the issues, whatever they may be. People ask, what do you talk about on that show? A little bit of everything, because as I said, life is everything, and how we deal with it, learning to deal with it is our role, and honoring God in every aspect of it. You have to think back. It was King Solomon. You know, he would be the rock star king of the day. He would be on TV with the celebrities today. He had it all. He knew it all. He had the women. He had the money. He had it all. And at the very end, he said, life is to exalt the glory of God. The whole purpose of life is to exalt and glorify God. Think that through. And so that's what we do a little bit of here today. Now, for those of you who are wondering when we tape the show live, it's Wednesday, 10 a.m. So if you're joining us, you can see online, you can view online, watch along with us, chat alongside on webcast1live.com, webcast1live.com. And so thank you for those of our listeners and viewers who are faithful to do that while you're in the office. How cool is that? I don't think that would have been allowed back in the days when I was in the office working for large corporations. So how neat that is that we have that possibility. Speaking of freedoms and liberties, Ben Shapiro is not being allowed to speak on a campus in California, which doesn't surprise any of us. You know, the expression, the freedom of expression, the ideas, the exchange that used to happen on college campuses, just not happening anymore. And he's being banned because he's, I think, too conservative as he talks about diversity. And maybe our guest will touch on that. Joining us today is Mario Diaz. Before we go to Mario, I have to give you an announcement. And I know some of you won't hear the show till Sunday, but this is good news. You need to be aware of this. This is something to celebrate that came from the Iowa State House. The Iowa House passed not one, but five pro-Second Amendment bills. Pro-Second Amendment bills. And I'll quickly run through them. 2279, the Hearing Protection Act. This allows the silencers, and we all think of the TV shows, and gosh, why would we have silencers? Because it does help your hearing, and it is just a safety procedure. 2280, the Freedom Protection Act, to the heart and cause that defends your second rights. Prohibit the governor, including our governor, government agencies, from confiscating or regulating lawful possession, carrying, transfer, transportation, defensive use of firearms, ammunition. So another great bill. The other one, H-File 2, and I'm rushing through these, I know. You can get on the legislative website, legis.iowa.gov, legis.iowa.gov. We need to put that to a tune, Ryan. We need to figure out a tune so people can remember. legis.iowa.gov, and that's where you can get your information, and I'll give you these numbers. As you know on this show, you always need to keep a pencil and paper handy, and then you can look them up. You can also do a keyword search, and you'll be able to find them, or better yet, call your representatives, go to a coffee that happens in your neighborhood sometime during the legislative session. House File 2283, recreational carry bill, would allow for law-abiding citizens to carry a firearm while riding an ATV or a snowmobile. Yes, we get the danger in that, and there will have to be some personal responsibility there as well. But it's a fundamental right to self-defense outside someone's home or in on a recreational vehicle. 2281, the Youth Safety Parental Act. Remember the two young ladies that lobby at the State House because they wanted to learn how to shoot a gun, and there was some silliness that the government was saying they would decide when a child was mature enough and ready, not a parent. This takes it back into the hands of the parents to decide when individuals under 14 years of age are ready to learn gun safety and target shooting. I look back at our founding fathers, and I think, several of them were in the war at age 12. The Revolutionary War, I think many of them were serving at age 12. Think that through. At the very least, they were defending their families and probably hunting for their families' food. H. File 2314, Concealed Carry Permit Reform and Personal Information Protection Act would provide clarifications for Iowa's current carry permit law and respect law-abiding gun owners' right to privacy, so you can keep all that personal identifiable information of applicants and holders of permits out of the hands of the media or those who would misuse it. And we know that has been done in the past. So my hat's off to our House members. Congratulations to our House members. Now here's your work. If you don't know who your senator is, go to that same website, legis.iowa.gov, where you can say, find my legislator, and it will show you who your senator, who your state representative is. It will show you who your U.S. senator is, who your U.S. congressional member is. That way you can right there email them right on that website and tell them, please, as the Senate, this is where we have to go, as the Senate, please pass these bills to protect our Second Amendment rights. Because you know, Senator Gronstall will try and stop it. We always hear it's like he has more power than the governor and the chamber, the Republican chamber that we have control of. One man in the Senate stops it. Now, I don't think it's just one man, because there are other Democrats there, though he is the majority leader. There are other Democrats. And if some of them would do the right thing, honor liberty, honor the Constitution as it's written, and push, these bills would come out, whether one guy, it would make it more difficult for one guy to stop it and stomp on our freedom. So there you go. There's your update this week. Good news coming out of the State House. And joining me today is Mario Diaz. We're going to be talking about the Scalia opening on the court. And I will just say this. It seemed to me that last week there was great unrest. The death, I hate to say suspicion, but just the non-clarity in someone not being present, actually confirming death certificate, all of that. I feel like that overshadowed, plus the filling the vacancy, overshadowed the man. And the man who was Scalia, the years he sat on the court, the interpretation he had of the Constitution, not swinging to the right or to the left, or he stayed on the Constitution. He didn't always go the way conservatives wanted him to go. He held to the Constitution. He was a man to be honored, and he will long be remembered in our history of our country in preserving our Constitution. I think we just need to honor the man, and if you would, give some time to prayer for his family and the loss there. Mario Diaz is my guest. Mario Diaz is with Concerned Women for America and a bit of a constitutional scholar himself. Mario, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Tamara. It's great to be with you.
Scalia's passing leaves quite a vacancy. I've just talked about the gun bills that came through our House in the state here in Iowa. But there are several other issues just as critical that will be facing the Supreme Court now. We are down one and may possibly have a tie. What are some of those bills that may be coming, or not bills, but cases that may be coming to the Supreme Court?
Yeah, when you think about it, Tamara, it was Scalia in 2008 who wrote the famous Heller decision, who just by this slimmest margin, it was a 5-4 decision, upheld our Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms. So when you think about it that way, right now at the Supreme Court, there is not a majority. It doesn't exist to uphold what is expressly guaranteed by our United States Constitution. I mean, if that doesn't scare anybody, I don't know what will. Because what we have is a group of judges on the left that is willing to twist and turn the Constitution to fit what they think is the best policy.
Right.
And the Second Amendment is not the only issue, as you said. Religious liberty and abortion, the sanctity of human life, the freedom of conscience, all those things hang on the balance as we await what will happen with this vacancy.
We've got the Little Sisters of the Poor. We'll have a case coming up.
That's right. The Little Sisters of the Poor, this is the second time they go to the Supreme Court. As you know, the Obamacare mandate forces them to violate their conscience and provide for their employees contraceptives and abortifacients that they feel are a violation of their faith. Now, the interesting about it, and the total ironic thing, is that these Little Sisters of the Poor, they take vows of poverty and celibacy, and these are the most religious women you can think of.
And when you say religious, it's not just tradition. They are truly living what they believe.
That's exactly right. So there is no need for them to provide this because of their beliefs. And the Obama administration is just insistent on forcing them to pay for this. Remember, they allow churches to be exempted. So all they're saying here is that the Little Sisters of the Poor, for some reason, are not religious enough as other churches are.
Yeah, how can that be?
Which is crazy.
If they're not religious enough, and you know, we want to, this is different than we talk about the spirit of religiosity that is pharisaical. None of us should have that. But these people really adhere to their deeply held religious convictions, which is a phrase that has always kind of been used in the legal realm. They really adhere to their deeply held religious convictions, and they're being told it's not good enough. There's no proof there. There's not enough evidence that they would fall under the protection of a religious amendment, protection of the First Amendment. This is frightening to me.
Yes, it is, because, you know, there is no reason to do this. And this is perhaps the bigger issue with President Obama and the way he has decided to conduct business as the chief executive of the country, is that there are things he does just to prove a point. There is no real purpose, advantage of forcing this group of nuns to do this. He could offer an exception just to them, but instead he has had them and dragged them through court for years. And now it's heading up to the Supreme Court. The unfortunate thing about it is that with Scalia absent at this point in the court, even if the case were to be a 4-4 decision, then it would only uphold the lower court decision, which in this case, in the case of the Little Sisters of the Poor specifically, it was a bad decision. So this is just a cause for us to pray and continue to lift up every justice of the Supreme Court, and also this vacancy that will continue, we hope, throughout this year and into the next president, whoever he is.
And Mario, you bring up a good point to pray. And we at Concerned Women for America have our Encourage a Leader packets, and Encourage a Legislator and Encourage a Leader. And here in Iowa, we are looking for more prayer partners. If you'd like to join us, the packet comes with 16 prayer cards, postcards that are pre-printed, a scripture verse, and a quote of our founding fathers affirming your Judeo-Christian heritage as a nation. You simply address it, put your return address on it, stamp it, and once a week send those off in the mail to our legislators and our Supreme Court justices here in Iowa. We have 7, and our state elected officials as well. We're looking for people to do that. If you'd like to be a part of that, please email director@iowa.cwfa.org, director@iowa.cwfa.org. Getting hold of me at the station will get you connected with Concerned Women for America, because that's a great program in the prayer. But Mario, the other thing I like that we say at CWA is that prayer paves the way, but action takes the land. And so we're asking people beyond prayer to contact their senators, because let's clarify for people, in the Constitution, we heard this at the presidential debate one evening. I was surprised and a little disappointed that not one Republican caught it, but I know when you're on stage, there's a lot coming at you and you're not maybe paying attention to every word. The president does not appoint.
That's right. The president gets to nominate, and the role that the Senate must play is to advise and consent. So that implies that in some cases, they will not provide consent. They will withhold that consent, and that is what they're doing here. So all this talk about they're not fulfilling their constitutional duty is out of line, because that's exactly what they're doing.
All right. We've got to go to break. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. We'll come back and we'll talk about this a little more. Talking with Mario Diaz, Concerned Women for America. The Constitution, all that is riding with it at the Supreme Court level right now. You're listening to Truth for Our Time on 99.3 FM, Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza, and it's got Graziano sausage.
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And thank you for staying tuned with us, Truth for Our Time, as we give you God's Word in today's world, helping you when the headlines hit home. Talking with Mario Diaz. Mario, thank you. We needed to take that break. You stopped you mid-sentence, so I'm just going to turn it right back to you.
I was just going to say how important it is, what you said, that the president gets to nominate someone to the Supreme Court, and then the Senate must provide advice and consent, and sometimes it withholds that consent. And I was going to say that it makes actually perfect sense, because our founders were protecting against having a king, somebody who gets to do whatever they want, whenever they want it. And so this is perfectly in line with what we want. We want this type of confrontation to happen between the branches of government so that we can get the best possible people, and we don't get somebody like President Obama to rearrange and really transform the country through judicial fiat, which is what we have when we have judges interpreting the Constitution as a living, breathing documents that they can manipulate any way they want.
And think this through when they call it a living document. Yes, we can change it, but there is an arduous process in place. As I tell my government students, when we passed the amendment to give the black the vote, It wasn't that they just assumed because it was already there for the white. And tragic as it is, unfortunate in our history, this is part of a growing nation. And we blessed, that we learned our way and corrected it. But the black worked to pass the amendment, 14th Amendment. But you know what? It wasn't until the 19th Amendment that women then got the right to vote. No one just assumed they could just change something. No one just assumed that they could just add in interpretation. They knew the reverence of the Constitution, and they had to go back in and do the diligent hard work of amending it. And this is what the fear is, Mario, I think of so many people with the Supreme Court, is the court has become so powerful. This death of Scalia shows us the huge void because we're fearful that too much is going to be changed in the courts when it should be coming through the legislative branch. I think it was Hamilton in the 78 Federalist Papers said that the courts are for remedy, individual remedy, but when it's going to affect a body politic, it has to come through the legislative process.
Yeah, it's funny when you think of the founders. The founders thought that the judiciary was the weakest branch of the...
Supposed to be, yeah.
It was supposed to be because they are supposed to just interpret what the legislature has already done. And this was Scalia's biggest contribution to the world of legal thinking. It is the fact that the judge should be truthful and respectful of the people who are supposed to be the supreme under our Constitution, so that Scalia would say, look, I don't want to get my way on things, but if you want to have, for example, same-sex marriage, you have a way to do that. Convince your fellow men and pass the law, and then you can have it. You want to have abortion on demand? The same thing. You convince your fellow citizens about it, and you pass a law. And we, on the other side, who believe different, we will fight and we would argue for what we believe is true. But just for 9 unelected judges, remember, this is the other important point about the court. These are lifetime appointments. Scalia was there 30 years. And so, the potential for President Obama now to nominate somebody that will have this type of effect, it really would be transformative for the nation.
Right, absolutely. And you hit on something. We hear how much influence they have, and maybe if we're concerned about someone having too much time on the court, I hear people talking about making it political, and I certainly don't agree. I don't want elections. I don't want term limits. Can you imagine someone sitting on the court knowing they were going to be getting off the court, hearing a case of a large corporation that might offer them a job if they had a pleasing outcome? It would be extremely dangerous. I say elect older individuals who are wiser, who have been through life and not looking for the next gig after serving on the court. And you'll by nature have less terms, less time in office. And so...
yeah, and what you need, it really is the type of work that Justice Scalia was doing, which is to stand up for what you believe in the midst of a very hostile media and intellectual elite, and make the case for this judicial philosophy that it makes perfect sense. It will work for everybody. Yeah. I don't want a judge who would be a judicial activist for my issues. I don't want a judge who will impose things that I like. I want a judge who will respect what the people do and who will, on the other hand, try to find ways to give the legislature the time and the space to rectify the errors it does. One of the things Justice Scalia used to say all the time is, look, this law could be horrible. And in fact, some of the time he thought it was the worst possible policy to follow. But you respect what the legislature has done. You respect the same thing with the president. But we have been eroding on that, as you have said. It's not only on the judiciary. When you think about what President Obama has done.
Right, pencil and a pen. I have a pen. What do you say? I have a phone and a pen. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is frightening. And it's because Congress isn't doing their job. The court wouldn't be out of control. The president wouldn't be out of the control. If the branch I think was supposed to be the strongest branch, Congress would be doing their job. That's
right. You see it all the time. The president, just yesterday he talked about closing Guantanamo, and he will just continue to do all the things he could not get through legislative effort, because the president has a voice and a very powerful one when it comes to passing legislation. But he has chosen not to do that. He has spent no time on it, and he just decides to act on his own. And this is why it is so important, again, for the people to understand this and to support those Republican senators. Yesterday, the news broke that all the Republican senators in the Senate Judiciary send a letter saying they will not have hearings, they will not consider another. Remember, this is the third Supreme Court justice that President Obama will get to appoint. And I think we need to support them on it. They are standing, again, fulfilling their constitutional duty, but more importantly, they are standing for freedom and for the Constitution.
When we see signs that we should put, put the Constitution before partisan politics, they're insinuating that Republicans are being obstructionist. Republicans are doing exactly what they are supposed to do, and that is upholding the Constitution. And there's precedent for this. We'll play after you go, because I know you have to run, the clip of Biden in '92 saying the exact same thing that Grassley, the head of the judiciary, penned in a letter himself. And I'm so thankful that we in Iowa have Senator Grassley as the head of the judiciary. Thankful for his wisdom and his leadership on this. Call his office. And always see as it's 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121 is the Capitol switchboard in D.C., and that will get you to any legislator. But you can then thank Senator Grassley. Yeah. Thank him for his leadership and standing firm. Encourage him to stand firm. He's not being an obstructionist. He's upholding the Constitution, protecting it.
Yes, I want to echo that, because remember that what he's going to face with this, in this environment with the hostile media. Just today, the president himself released an op-ed in a popular left-wing blog, and they are going to put all efforts into demonizing them, even though what you said is absolutely true. This was their position when they were on the other side.
They even wrote a resolution in the House. What year was that? It was at 2005? They wrote a resolution in the House saying that they did not want any judiciary appointments in an election year.
Yeah, and the president himself, if you remember, he filibustered Justice Alito. Now, the other day he came out and said he regretted that, of course. Now, it doesn't help his efforts that he himself was for filibustering somebody. And the reason he gave is even more eye-opening, because he said he was outside the mainstream, not only of left-wing ideology, but of American values. And that's exactly what we're saying about this living, breathing Constitution philosophy that the left has embraced. That it's really something outside of American values, because it goes against the form of government that our founders, in their wisdom, set up for us, that has guarded our liberty for so many years now.
And in 1932, we have to go back to 1932 to have a president confirm a justice in the last year, an election cycle once it's begun. And before that, when a divided government like we have now, was 1888. Right. So there is precedent as to why we don't do this. We have to go clear back to 1888. There's been a respect for the process and upholding the vote of the people, having influence in a president. Closing thoughts for you, Mario.
I think I want to stress the importance of this vacancy for our future. We must stand with those Republican senators who are withholding their consent for the time being. And then we need to make the case. Remember, even if they get to do this, we must have a president then nominate the next time in 2016 or next year, 2017, somebody who will respect the Constitution as written and will uphold the values that we hold dear. If we don't do that, all this will be for nothing. So we need to be diligent. This is not the time to tune out, but it is the time to get involved. And CWA is a great way to do that. So to find out more there, concernedwomen.org.
Thank you so much, Mario Diaz with Concerned Women for America, a lawyer and attorney understanding the Constitution. And again, if we hadn't given so much power to the court, this wouldn't be such an issue. Congress has allowed the court to usurp their own power by making law and by declaring what can and cannot be constitutional. We saw it here in Iowa with our own Supreme Court. When they overrode our DOMA, Defense of Marriage, instead of just doing what they'd done in the past, the precedent set, and saying, this is a law as it is right now. If the legislature wishes to change the law, here's model language. They'd done that just months earlier in a sexual assault case with Isaac out of Ankeny. But instead, from September to April, just a few short months, they totally override their own precedent and make law and say, this is what it's going to be in Iowa now, and we now have same-sex marriage. You can't do that. They can say someone's guilty of speeding, but the court doesn't get to change the speed limit. And that's exactly what they did in some of these cases. They changed the law. They don't get to do that. We're seeing too much influence of the court, Congress. So as much as we're going to hold to our presidents and talk about the Supreme Court right now, talk with those who are running for Congress and those who are running for Senate as well. Because if they would have been doing their job, we would not have had a runaway court. Ryan, do I have time? I have just a minute. I don't think I have time. Do I have time for Biden? Let's play Biden on our way out. No, I don't have time? All right, so when we come back, I'll play that clip for you. It is Joe Biden, your vice president, in 1992, and his words will be mirrored very much in the letter that Grassley wrote as the head of the judiciary just in the last couple of days. So this president is here, Harry Reid, in 2005 as well. And the House, I don't have the date in front of me when the House signed a resolution saying the same thing, that they did not want a president, and it was a Democratic House, by the way, saying they did not want a president picking someone. And we come back to the Reagan years when he did, and I think if you understand, he had already put someone forward and they had filibustered Bork. And that's why they came in later with Kennedy. We'll be right back. A little continued conversation with this. And Jenny Kalajiri, the head of the Congressional Prayer Caucus, will be joining us. Stay tuned. Truth for Our Time.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
Thank you for staying tuned. Ryan, you want to play that clip with Biden? And this is 1992.
As a result, it is my view that if a Supreme Court justice resigns tomorrow or within the next several weeks, or resigns at the end of the summer, President Bush should consider following the practice of a majority of his predecessors and not name a nominee until after the November election is completed. The Senate, too, Mr. President, must consider how it would respond to a Supreme Court vacancy that would occur in the full throes of an election year. It is my view that if the President goes the way of Presidents Fillmore and Johnson and presses an election year nomination, the Senate Judiciary Committee should seriously consider not scheduling confirmation hearings on the nomination until after the political campaign season is over. And I sadly predict, Mr. President, that this is going to be one of the bitterest, dirtiest presidential campaigns we will have seen in modern times. I'm sure, Mr. President, after having uttered these words, some will criticize such a decision and say there was nothing more than an attempt to save a seat on the court in hopes that a Democrat will be permitted to fill it. But that would not be our intention, Mr. President, if that were the course we were to choose as a Senate, to not consider holding hearings until after the election. Instead, it would be our pragmatic conclusion that once the political season is underway, and it is, action on a Supreme Court nomination must be put off until after the election campaign is over. That is what is fair to the nominee and essential to the process. Otherwise, it seems to me, Mr. President, we will be in deep trouble as an institution.
Thank you, Ryan. And I'm curious, did Biden run for president in 1992? I know he ran, I think it was 86 maybe. I'm not sure if he was running in 92 as well. But that was the campaign of the Clintons. And so he's right. We can expect a really dirty campaign when a Clinton's involved. Never did I think I'd have Biden on my show and want you to listen to something he said and agree with him. I guess even a broken clock is right twice a day. So how strange is that? that I'm going to agree with then Senator, now Vice President Joe Biden, who was tripping all over his words, and we heard from our guest that Obama is as well. So we have this vacancy. You see the unrest in the American people. We have a thriving presidential election before us right now with many great options. Now, some of them aren't behaving so well. Think back on yourself when you've had something of high pressure, someone caught you off guard, something where your adrenaline's up and you don't always behave real well either. And we don't like that because that's character and that shows us, out of the mouth comes the abundance of the heart. But look past all of that, because I think running are several good people. And I'm not asking you to get into deciding who's a Christian and who's not. I think that's dangerous. But I would ask you not to criticize somebody else who's going to vote for someone and challenge their faith of whether they're a Christian or not because of their choice. That's really rocky as well. But here we are in the throes of an election cycle, obviously. And of course, according to Biden, according to Harry Reid, the Democratic House resolution that was filed, and I'm not seeing that year that was filed, but they did do a resolution in the House under Democratic control. Not once we've entered the election cycle, let's not go into selecting Supreme Court justices. There's just too much on the plate. But all of these things, creating the unrest as it is, I'm going to read something to you from A.W. Tozer. I believe that the imperative need of the day is not simply revival, but a radical reformation that will go to the root of our moral and spiritual maladies and deal with causes rather than consequences, with disease rather than symptoms. I think that's good word for us today. I think we need to remember that. And joining me today is Jenny Caligiuri. Jenny is with the Congressional Prayer Caucus, the Governor's Prayer Caucus, and did I say that wrong?
National Governor's Prayer Team.
National Governor's Prayer Team. And isn't there one more in there?
United States National Prayer Council.
She prays a lot. We all should pray more.
Everything to do with prayer.
She prays a lot. We all should pray more. So, Jenny, I ask you here today because you and I had a conversation, and we were talking about all the things happening. And for some in America, that just creates such unrest and such... the spirit is just, people are concerned, they're a little fearful, they're even Christians. I ask you today to give your perspective on that.
I will. First, I'd like to say something about that Biden. History repeats itself. I think that's what we're supposed to do. That's why we go to the Old Testament, because the Lord gave us the Word so that we could see the mistakes we'd made and move forward and watch. But what I see happening today is the church, the so-called church, is turning on itself, for one thing. They are looking to one another and accusing one another of not being Christians. There isn't unity in the body that the Lord talks about. But what I see is we're in a process of crossing the Red Sea again, or crossing the Jordan. And I don't know if I should say this, but it's kind of like we've got a Pharaoh over our nation, and the Lord will harden his heart till the church rises up to take its place and to move out of that place of bondage. And just the comment you read is very enlightening, because we need healing in the body of Christ right now. And I see a lot of accusations going on. If you're not a Christian, if you are voting for this candidate, you are. If you are for this candidate. And we have lost Justice Scalia. And I see the Lord removing a lot of the crutches. And I think what we are to do right now as the body of Christ is to actually seek the Lord, seek his face, ask him who he has for this time. God is doing different things. We don't always know what we need.
Right.
If you remember in the Old Testament, they asked for a king, and they got Saul, and when they should have got a David. And so I think we're looking at a time where we're looking to the way things should have been when the church was asleep, and we're waking up, but we're not seeing we're not seeking God's face to see who he has for a time such as this. We need this nation to be plowed up. And as long as we have men in office that we will be dependent on to change our nation, then the church, I believe, as we've seen in the past, will go back to sleep. They're looking for a man instead of the time for the church to rise up and take its place and do the rebuilding. Just like in Ezra and Zechariah, the temple had been stopped building, and we're calling the kingdom to come to earth. That is what we're to do, but the kingdom is within us. So we need to rise up and be the church that God called us to be, restoring our nation, rebuilding, calling kingdom to earth, setting that example, and that comes through the healing process first. We're hearing through, our hearing is has defects. So we're not really...
It's like interference on a radio.
Yes, exactly. We're not hearing through the channel going up to the third heaven, up to where Jesus sits on the throne, and that's where He's called us to get our answers, not here on earth. So really, these are exciting times. We're in the greatest times. We're focusing on a man, and yes, I do believe that we need to vote for someone with Christian values. We are to influence the government, but we're not to coerce. The government is not to coerce us, and the church is not to coerce those people into believing like they believe.
And so we're going to go to a break, and we'll come right back and continue this discussion, because we have put too much emphasis, too much into man. We need to turn back to God. Stay tuned, Truth for Our Time.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common, everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
Thank you for staying tuned with us on Truth for Our Time. I am Tamara Scott. We thank 99.3 FM, Webcast One Live, and also Christians for America, CRAVE, Christians Reviving American Values Every Day. Don Swarthout is one of those quiet little pastors who wrote an incredible book that's only yay big and so thick and powerful, teaching in it, talking about the ACLU and their overreaching grip on America and what it's costing us, not only financially, but morally. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that. But I want to come back to our guest right now, Jenny Caligieri. We're talking about, as Christians, I think some people are getting a little bit weary and fearful. Why would God have taken Scalia right now? Why not wait till we had a, quote, godly president in there? And Jenny, we're lazy as a church. We are lazy. We expect the courts to fix it. Even if we elect a godly president, then we all sit back on our haunches while expecting them to do all the work. We expect these godly principles in schools, but we don't demand them locally, and we allow our kids to go into a horrible situation more than we would put them in a uniform and send them to the Middle East. We send them into spiritual warfare right in our own schools, and they get taught that, God doesn't exist and that Constitution's wrong and that man is greedy and the free markets don't work. And then we wonder why they don't vote for a great candidate when they get old enough to vote, because they've been taught not to recognize what makes a candidate strong and virtuous. And so we as the church, we're no longer taking care of the poor, the sick, the needy. We've left that to the government. Mm-hmm. We need to take those things back. But we're looking to a Scalia in a panic, and now he's not there. Right. We're worried about a president. We don't know what's going to happen. And you're saying maybe we ought to be looking a little higher than the highest court in the land.
Correct, Tamara. That's how I believe. And the Lord has had me in Exodus lately. And if you look back at Exodus, they were in bondage. And if you look at the church, we're in bondage today. And even when he set them free, They complained and whined because they wanted him to give them everything. And the Lord has called us to bring the kingdom to earth. He has called us to partner with him in bringing change into this nation. And we continue. I look back at 9/11. We prayed for a couple of months as a church.
We went to church for a couple weeks afterward.
Exactly. And we cried out to the Lord. And then things looked better. And so we went back to our old ways. And it's like, how many times will we go around the mountain before we realize that the Lord is calling on the church to do the rebuilding here? So we need to partner with him. We need to go to that third heaven. We need to go to the throne room, seek his face, ask his direction. I hear so many Christians on both sides or several sides for candidates that they've heard from the Lord that that's who they're supposed to be voting for. But if we're also divided, it makes me wonder, who we're seeking. And there are good candidates out there.
Right.
There are several good candidates out there. But I see the Lord allowing things to be broken up in this nation, things to be taken down, taken out, allowing that to happen until the church wakes up and realizes that it is our place to move forward and make the changes, just those changes you were talking about. When are we going to love our neighbor? When are we going to read the word and do what it actually says?
Right.
And I'm just as guilty. I mean, I'm reading the word out loud out of my home right now, and I'm seeing, and it's a living word, so it changes. It brings life to us and brings a new word to us every time we read
God
it.
is not changing. The Bible is unchanging, but his revelations are new each morning.
Exactly. So I believe if we will begin to read the word, see what it says to do, God has an answer in all times. And instead of being so anxious, because I've heard so many people talking about fear now because of Justice Scalia gone, and then
or that the candidate they don't like is leading.
That's exactly. Instead of looking at this at the most exciting times, and we're partnering with the Lord on rebuilding this kingdom, and what does that look like? What does that look like today? Are we really asking that? Who is the man he wants in office maybe to plow up so that the church, the Lord has told me it's time for the church to do the rebuilding. He will bring in someone like a wrecking ball, and whoever that might be, to tear down what the enemy has built up in this nation. So are we going to unite and get behind and come together as a church and look at this as a season to do the rebuilding and to feed the poor, to heal the sick, to bring the Bible or the Word back into the school, bring prayer back into the places where they've been removed from. It was taken out by one person. Why can't we bring it back? And it's what's in our heart. So I just think there needs to be a healing in our nation today.
You're absolutely right. And that quote I read talked about the consequences. We're worried about the consequences rather than the cause.
Exactly.
When we get our hearts right, how we live, honoring God, we won't have to worry about consequences. We'll have to worry about where we're going to put all our blessings.
Yes.
And wouldn't that be a much better way to live? Jenny, prayer, you've talked about prayer. You had us reading the Word of God out loud in the state capitol. We know where the Word is read, it does not come back void. It was a wonderful experience. Several legislators joined in. You're now offering folks the opportunity to do that in their county courthouses. The week before July 4th, you'd like people to start when?
In June, the end of June. It'll be actually June 30th.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it will be June 30th. It's a Thursday.
Okay.
And I can get those details to you, but it will start around 4 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And if we read continuously through the Bible, we should end up a little after midnight of 4th of July, which is our birthday for our nation. It was when we were founded. We were founded on biblical foundations. And the Lord said his word will not come back void. And it's very simple. Not reading from a microphone, just reading his word out loud continuously in front of every courthouse in all 99 counties.
Proclaiming it, declaring it, from all 99 counties. So how do people call you if they're in a county, folks? Whatever county you're in, if this your heart's being prompted, call Jenny. Who do they have an email? How do they get a hold of you?
There's an email, Iowa Bible Reading Marathon @gmail.com, or they can reach me at 641-223-0166.
641-223-0166. Iowa Bible Reading Marathon @gmail.com. Iowa's spelled out. And so we'll get that information. We'll have it on tamarascott.com as well. And you can find more information out, but don't sit back and think you can't do it. We got feedback from our listeners who are watching live saying Exodus, there's a movie Exodus, and that you're right in line with what that they were talking about in the movie. Folks, it's time. Think this through. We could go back into the dark ages, or we could have light and truth. And it's up to you. What an exciting time. You have impact right now, but it all depends on how. Charles Finney said it. The blessings of a nation or the cursing of a nation will rest upon the Christians and how they behave. We're out of time. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you,
You've been
Tamara.
challenged. Be encouraged. Never be complacent.